Oh man, oh man.
All right, part two.
Oh boy. I got Oreos, milk, and a mug that says, "Bring me coffee and tell me I'm pretty."
Oh my gosh, can I tell you before we start, I'm really bummed that I am now like on a purchasing hold until I know my like how things are gonna shake out because there is a mug in the BioWare store that has it's like a really nice looking mug, and on the front it's got like the N7 logo, and it's like I think it's like a matte mug, so it's just got like a really nice matte finish. It's so good. And then you turn it around and it just says I should go. I love it.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. Anyway, that was my mug tangent. Okay. So, chapter 9, The Escape. So right now, uh Justin Halley is getting
Gesundheit.
people out. What?
Gesundheit, you sneezed.
No, I didn't.
You said Justin Halley. That's a sneeze.
Is getting people, his snake men,
Ugh.
out of the compound. We found Gray Fox. Gray Fox may or may not die. Who knows at this point? All right. Oh yeah, also Justin Halley became a walking arsenal and then had it all taken away before he had a chance to use literally any of it.
Yeah, he picked up most of it on one page, and then the next page, give me that stuff.
No, I mean, it was like every other 2 pages it reiterated what he was carrying, and then like a chapter later it was like, and it was all taken.
And it's
And he
gone.
pulled us a Samus, and I like at the beginning of all of those Metroid games where Samus just somehow loses every weapon that they got from the last game.
Yeah, she tripped. Duh.
So, all right, here we go. Chapter 9, The Escape. Hallie's hands were bare of weapons or equipment, and time was running out. You know, he could have had weapons.
This next sentence, though.
The clock of doom was already ticking. Ticking. Katafi's terrorists would be back for them very soon, and that would mean certain death for the 2 snake men and the total failure of the Outer Heaven mission. What was Hallie to do? His rigorous snake man... I can't even say it with a straight face.
It's bad.
His rigorous snake man training had taught Solid Snake ways in which he could create whatever he needed from his immediate environment.
MacGyver.
He looked around him. What was there in this bare cell that he could use? Hallie concentrated, visualizing possible escape scenarios. One piece of luck gave Hallie the slightest edge. Along with the 2 key cards, the terrorists had just missed the little book of matches that Justin had found in the truck. Now, if Solid Snake was careful with them, they would at least have some illumination in this dark cell. And maybe the matches would be even more useful than just shedding light. Because although the cell was sealed tightly, Hallie thought he could feel the merest whisper of cold air seeping in from outside. Somewhere there must be a crack in the cell wall. Hang on 1 second. I forgot that I have to cancel plans with someone.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
You might want to edit this part out.
What? There's no editing. We're doing it live.
There's no editing. All I heard was lazy talk.
I don't want to do anything. I'm gonna be lazy about it. This is the words I'm choosing to use, not the words I need to use.
Okay. Here
Okay.
we go. Lighting a match, he held it up as long as he could before it burned his fingers.
Ow.
Yes, there was a thin trickle of cold air coming in from somewhere outside the cell. The flame was flickering in only one direction. Hallie lit up another match and held this one somewhat lower down, next to the wall. The little match head of fire told him that the air was flowing from that direction. With the 3rd match burning, Solid Snake got down on his hands and knees and looked intently. He had to find the airflow before he used up the book of matches completely.
You know, there's easier ways to do that without.
You can also, like, if you can feel the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's strong
Anyway.
enough to feel, you don't need matches to find it.
Hang on 1 second.
Milk. Milk is such a weird word.
Milk.
Milk.
Oh my god. Before the match burned out, Hallie's hands found the small gust of air, and his eyes detected the beginnings of a crack in the wall very close to the floor. He got down on his stomach and as close to the wall as he could and inspected, feeling the wall carefully with his fingers. Yes, there was a fault in the masonry, a tiny crack in the wall just beginning to break through to the other side. Now, if he could only locate the weakest point in the fault. Solid Snake's fingers felt around until they touched the softest part. He felt the masonry beginning to crumble just a little under his touch. Satisfied, Justin Hallie sat back on his haunches. "Hold tight, Gray Fox," he said. "Keep it together, and don't go dying on me now. I think maybe I see a way to get us out of here." Reaching over to where he dropped his blindfold when he'd torn it off, Solid Snake picked it up and folded the greasy cloth into 3 thicknesses. He wrapped the wad tightly around the knuckles of his right hand and made a strong fist. He stood up and squared his shoulders. Oh, Chris Redfield is gonna have some things to say.
Oh, boulder punching bastard.
I loved that.
So good.
Then, taking a deep breath and letting it out again in a tiger's roar, Hallie ran towards the wall at top speed. Are you kidding me?
Falcon punch.
Oh my god. At the last moment, so he stood up, ran towards the wall at top speed. At the last moment, he dropped down and aimed a karate punch with his wrapped fist straight at the center of the crack in the masonry, in the very heart of its weakest spot.
Nothing happened except Snake's hand. It exploded.
Instantly, the bricks and mortar gave way, and a hole opened in the cell wall. Scratching with his bare hands, Hallie enlarged the hole. He had to work fast. The terrorists would be back any moment now. At last, the hole was large enough for a man to pass through. Gently, Justin Hallie lifted the weak Gray Fox in his arms as though the big man were a child, and carried him to the hole, pushing him through to the other side of the cell wall. Then Solid Snake squeezed through the hole and stood up, brushing mortar and brick dust off his camos. Now they were free, but Gray Fox was too weak to stand, and Solid Snake was without a weapon. He would have to stash his squad leader in some relatively safe place and make an effort to recapture his weapons and other gear, or else find new ones. He'd already lost valuable time. Gray Fox had said he had less than an hour to get to Metal Gear and disarm it. Because he'd been brought there blindfolded, and because his cell had been so well hidden, Hallie had no idea what part of outer heaven they were in now. Would either of his key cards work here? There was a small door behind one of the columns that held up the ceiling, and Hallie tried key card 1 on the lock. No go. The lock wouldn't budge. Key card 2. He heard a click. All right, this one got the door open. The room was empty. No prisoners. No equipment. It was probable that Gray Fox would be as safe here as anywhere else in the compound. "I'll be back for you as soon as I can," Hallie told his squad leader. "Try to stay alive, Gray Fox. We'll get through this thing." "You're a good man, Solid Snake," Gray Fox barely whispered. "If anybody can succeed in this mission, it's you." The squad leader reached inside a pocket. "One last thing," he said. "Take these goggles. They're infrared. There are laser traps on some of the floors. You can see them with these goggles."
Why the fuck would he have that?
Yeah, like
yeah, Justin gets his stuff taken away.
But not the guy that's been locked up here for, days. No.
Yeah.
No.
Not that guy.
No. Nope.
Solid Snake left Gray Fox lying on the floor of the room and closed the door behind him, making a mental note of the layout so that he could find his squad leader later, if there was a later. Without even knowing which level he was on or in what building, Justin Hallie resumed his search of outer heaven, still looking for the radio, for a weapon, and for clues to Metal Gear. We're halfway through the book and he still doesn't have a weapon. Or not a weapon, a radio.
I need a weapon.
Chapter 10, The Shotgunner.
Pew, 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 pew.
Pew, pew. The next room Solid Snake entered had nothing in it. It appeared to be just an empty space, but Justin Hallie had a strange feeling about this place. Something was in here, he was sure of it. He did a quick search, but came up with nothing. Even so, all his instincts told him that there was something of importance, or that something of importance should be hidden here. He looked again, this time even more thoroughly, but once again found nothing. Perhaps his Snake Man instincts were wrong this time. It's always his stupid instincts. He was wasting precious minutes. By now, the terrorists would have returned to get Solid Snake and Gray Fox. They would have found them missing, and they'd be searching every inch of outer heaven. Or through the hole they escaped from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had to
Reluctantly.
punch that hole to be, like, at least,
Yeah, big enough to push a man through.
yeah, so, like, it's a pretty big hole.
Yeah. Reluctantly, Hallie turned to leave, to look elsewhere, but there it was. Something really small caught Solid Snake's sharp, trained eye. High up the wall, close to the ceiling, a thin piece of plastic no bigger than a credit card.
What?
Taped to the wall is a key card. A brief touch told him that it was key card 3. He just sensed it by touching it.
High up the wall.
See, I get that
Close
part.
to
I mean,
the ceiling.
It's got those braille markings on it or whatever, but
Yeah.
Yeah, why is it there's ammo taped to the baseboard, there's key cards taped to the ceiling.
Greg, what are you doing? Yeah, I've just got a bad habit of losing things, so I tape them to walls.
So is he gonna find like the rest of the cards all at once at this point? Because if we're halfway through the book and he just found number 3,
Yeah, probably.
it's like, oh man, I found key card marked 4, 5, and 6 all at once. What a coincidence.
The young Marine captain retrieved it. He now had 3 out of the 8 necessary cards. Why were the keys just lying about?
Or, taped to the ceiling.
Hallie was sure that it was a sign of the maniac Katafi's arrogance. Building a fort. No, it's not arrogance, it's his people. It's his stupid people taping their key cards to the ceiling. Katafi is not going around just being like, I'm gonna stick some ammo here and some key cards here.
It's a sign that him and all of his folks have been sniffing paint for way too long.
Yeah, way too long. Jesus. Holly was sure that it was a sign of the maniac Katafi's arrogance, building a fortress and then leaving the keys in plain sight. With keycard 3 in his pocket, Hallie felt a sense of elation. He was on his way again. Locking the door behind him, he looked around to see where he should go next. One door on the far wall stood out. It was bigger than the others, big enough to drive a vehicle through. Trucks and tanks, jeeps, and other rolling stock were parked all over outer heaven, both indoors and outdoors. Oh, both indoors and out. Could this room be some kind of armory or supply depot? If it was, it must certainly be guarded. Solid Snake would have to be even more cautious than usual. He crept up silently to the door and applied keycard 3 to the lock, and he heard the click. In the next room, which was a supply depot, a huge man whom Hallie recognized from his criminal file as the Shotgunner was keeping watch over a large cache of weapons, including Solid Snake's own equipment. The terrorists had brought in the weapons to this central armory for storage after they'd captured Justin Hallie. If there was ever one big ugly monster, it was the Shotgunner. Hey, maybe he's not ugly. He was armed to the teeth, ready to kill, and he loved his work. Creeping silent as a shadow, staying close to the wall to avoid detection, Solid Snake entered the armory. He saw the giant shape of the Shotgunner looming in the center of the room, watchful, waiting for an intruder so that he could let fly with a deadly rain of bullets. In the guard's large hands was the most powerful shotgun that Hallie had ever seen. One blast from that gun could tear a gaping hole in the wall of a steel building. All around him, Hallie saw piles of weapons, guns, and explosives of all kinds. But getting them into his hands would be a noisy business. Before Solid Snake could even shoulder a weapon, the Shotgunner would have heard him and blown him to the moon. Wait a minute. There, almost under the nose of the Shotgunner, was a pile of gear on the floor. Why would he go for the stuff that's like the closest?
Because plot device.
Yeah, right. Justin Hallie recognized... No, I mean closest to the enemy.
Oh,
idiocy.
Yeah, I was gonna say other things, but then I realized that it's not politically correct.
Oh.
And then
Yeah,
I felt
don't do
bad
that.
about it for a moment.
Justin Hallie recognized it. It was his own, the Beretta with its silencer, the Ingram Mac 2, his bandolier, the gas mask, all of it, even his rations. Now, if only he could get to it. Using the oldest trick in the book, the ventriloquist skill of throwing his voice in another direction.
That's the oldest trick in the book.
Ah, the oldest trick in the book. I'm gonna throw my voice that way.
Solid Snake made a small sound come from the opposite side of the room. I don't think that's how that works, but okay.
What isn't the oldest trick in the book actually saying, "Look over there"?
Yeah,
Not
that's about it.
not like whispering into your hand and throwing it over somewhere else. That's no. Mm-mm.
For a split second, the shotgunner turned his head. Sorry, I'm yawning. Only just long enough for Hallie to race past him and grab his weapons cache. Solid Snake hoped that his hands would first fall on the pistol because the pistol had a silencer. He knows where you are, though! But he didn't have time to pick or choose. As luck would have it, the first weapon into his hand was the MAC-2.
The second loudest thing he had.
The shotgunner heard him and growled in his throat, a deep animal sound, an enraged threat. He lifted his mighty shotgun and sighted down the barrel at Hallie. There wasn't even a second to spare. Solid Snake didn't even have a gun. Or wait, there wasn't a second to spare. Solid Snake didn't even have time to reach for the trigger of his gun. Instead, he whirled and swung the MAC-2 like a baseball bat, letting the shotgunner have it on the side of the head.
That doesn't make
He heard the
any
angry
sense.
growl. I don't know. He heard the angry growl become a grunt, saw the shotgunner topple over from the force of the blow, and the mighty gun fall from his big hands. That's it? That's it? That's how he took down the shotgunner? Was he...
By
he
slapping
bashed
the
him in
shit
the
out of
head?
him with a gun. That was loaded!
God, Solid Snake knew that the noise of the struggle would have the terrorist guards down on him before he could blink an eye. He had to get out of there, and fast. But as he was running for the back door, loaded down with his gear, he noticed some equipment among the supplies. Jesus, I forgot how to read. Among the supplies that might prove very useful, a suit of body armor and a bomb blast suit. Grabbing them, Hallie ran for his life, out through the back door. He wasn't aware of it yet, but Hallie was about to come face to face with a new hazard. The dreaded heat panels.
Game hint.
I can hear myself echoing back at me.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Game hint. Watch out for the pitfall between the wood crates. Here we go. Chapter 11. The heat panels. Solid Snake looked around him. He was outside the second building of the Outer Heaven complex. So now he knows what building he's in? Does it have a giant 2 on it, do you think?
Why not? Just like the cards.
Right. In the shadow of a high wall, his weapons were heavy, and he had to get inside and stash them somewhere safe. He'd never find Metal Gear dragging all this heavy equipment around with him. About 20 yards away, almost against the wall of the building, Solid Snake saw more trucks, 3 of them. At once, Hallie spotted that the middle one was a trap. Solid Snake Man was
I'm sorry, what?
He's Solid Snake Man with a cape and kung fu action.
Solid Snake Man was beginning to be expert in the way the terrorists thought, and he avoided it. The first truck was empty, but the last truck on the end held a treasure. Sitting in the glove compartment was key card 4. Suddenly, Solid Snake wasn't tired anymore. He was wired, bursting with energy. Grabbing the key card, he ran for the building and entered through the side door. I hate him.
So much.
The layout of Building 2 was not unlike that of the first building in the Outer Heaven complex. There were no stairs evident, just 2 elevators, east and west, no markings on any of the doors. In the corners of the vast first level painted on the floor was that same strange insignia. Minutes were ticking by quickly. Gray Fox had told Hallie that Metal Gear was almost completed. Speed was essential, now more than ever. Solid Snake realized he needed to find a place to stash the arsenal he was carrying. It would just slow him down, but where was a safe hiding place? He thought about it a minute, and it came to him. The best place to stash equipment is in a room already filled with equipment, a room locked by one of the 4 key cards Hallie already had. If he could only find a place like that, unguarded, a place he could come back to. And wouldn't luck just have it, Hallie found an unlocked room filled with food and stuffed his pockets full of rations. He made certain that he had all 4 key cards on him and moved silently to a locked door. Key card 3 didn't fit the lock, but key card 4 got the gate open. Very cautiously, on the lookout for traps, he moved inside. It was exactly the setup Solid Snake had hoped for.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
Does it actually say gate on yours?
Where?
Like keycard 4 got the gate open. Does it actually say that on yours?
Oh, no.
Oh, it
That's
says
just me.
okay. I was
I
like,
don't know where I
'cause
got that from.
I was just like, do we have different? Like, do we have a re-edited version somewhere?
Nope, it says door. I don't know where I got gate from.
Fair enough. I don't
Alright.
know. I'm thinking Resident Evil. Open the gate
Open
with
the gate.
with the stupid insignia key.
Weapons and gear lined the shelves of the room. The equipment was out of date and appeared to be unguarded. It looked like stuff nobody would want or come to check on. Nobody would bother to notice Solid Snake's stash. He could retrieve it as needed. You don't think that people are going to go into a room filled with weapons in
It's
a
stuff that
military
no one will
compound?
need. I mean, otherwise, why would they have it, right?
Yeah. Stupid.
Who? Never mind. I was gonna say
Just-
who wrote this, but FX9 did it. We need to find them.
Justin Halley's dumb. All right.
Yes.
Halley began to unfasten his bandoliers, but before he could set down any of his gear, he heard noises approaching the door. He moved fast and low towards the back of the storeroom. Just as the front door opened and an armed squad of Colonel Kataffi's men came in, Solid Snake, oh my god. I'm yawning a lot, but it's not because I'm tired. Just reading out loud makes me yawny.
Yeah, I get it.
Solid Snake saw a small back door through to one side of him. He slipped through it before the terrorists could catch a glimpse of him. He was in a place he'd never been before. So this is a room that he was like, no one will need to come in here, and then immediately people go in there.
Yeah.
That's just
He was-
bad luck, right?
Yeah.
He was in a place he'd never been before. Ahead of him stretched a large area made up of what appeared to be solar panels, but couldn't be because there was no sun in the windowless room to heat them. On the other side of the panels was another set of doors, each of them holding the possibility of escape. To reach the doors, Solid Snake would have to cross the panels. Behind him, he could hear the terrorists talking noisily in the storeroom. His only escape route was across the panels. He could feel the heat rising off them while he was still 4 feet away. The panels were arranged in a set, 2 smaller panels on the outer edges, and a larger, more intense-looking panel in the center. On the other side of the area, there was a control panel with switches and dials. Obviously, the panels could be turned on or off.
So
What were these panels?
this is very reminiscent of Metal Gear Solid 4. There's a scene in it.
With the microwave panels?
Yeah. Wait, why do you know that?
Because I just picked around what I saw or what I looked at, and I saw Johnny propose to Meryl.
How
I don't know
dare
what
you?
happened. I don't know what happens in those microwave hallways. I just know that there are microwave hallways.
Okay.
They could be making popcorn for all.
Yeah, who knows?
You spoiling yourself.
Yeah.
With popcorn.
Actually,
My friend and I are gonna start Metal Gear Solid 2 soon.
ooh, you're in for it's probably the most confusing entry in the series.
I'm ready. Okay. What were these panels? What function did they perform? At a quick guess, I thought it was gonna say glance, but at a quick guess, without examination, Solid Snake thought that they were made of silicon, a covering for fuel or energy cells, intended to vent the heat created from an enormous energy source elsewhere. For Metal Gear? Here they were, just as Chuck had warned him. These couldn't be anything but the heat panels. Am I reading this wrong? Why do these sentences not make sense?
No,
These
you're reading them right.
These couldn't be anything but the heat panels. It had been a true warning after all. Now the Snake Man's words came back to him again. You can't get to Metal Gear without crossing the heat panels. Burning, they burn. Eat the rations. You've got to raise your own body temperature if you want to survive.
That's
Rations.
What?
He could also like run in circles for a while.
Just
Solid
do some
Snake.
push-ups. Jumping jacks.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Rations. Solid Snake must eat. Right now. He pulled the rations out of his pockets and peeled the wrappings off. Hallie swallowed quickly, almost choking on the dry and densely compressed rations, with no liquid to wash them down. He ate as much as he could find in his pockets, then turned to the deadly heat panels. He couldn't afford another moment's delay. The only way to turn off the heat panels was from the other side of the room. Solid Snake set off across the silicon cells. The heat was fierce, burning, just like Chuck had said. Wow, yep. As Hallie crossed the deadly panels, the temperature began to rise even higher. The heat became more intense and more intolerable the further he progressed. And he was still on one of the outer panels. What would happen when he got to the center panel, the one that could really burn the flesh off of a man's bones? Solid Snake had eaten every scrap of field rations he had with him, and he still had to face the central panel without more rations. Suddenly, though, he felt a rise in his own body temperature. The calories he'd eaten were taking effect. His body and internal organs were heating up to match the heat of the panels. He didn't understand why it worked. Yeah, me neither. But Chuck's advice had saved his life. He was crossing the center panel now. Sweat was running down his head and body. His eyes ached from the heat haze and the glare. But Solid Snake was still alive, thanks to Chuck's warning. Thanks to Chuck's warning, the rations had their effect. He was in great pain, but he couldn't bother about that now. Instead, Justin was elated because he felt he was getting closer to Metal Gear. Justin Hallie stumbled off the heat panels, more dead than alive. The first thing he had to do was shut off the heat. Finding the control board for the heat panels, Solid Snake closed the system down. Across from him were 3 doors. He opened the door on the left with keycard 1 and stepped through. Game hint: you need the rocket launcher to defeat Arnold.
Gotta eat them calorie mates. Gotta eat them and make me hot. Oh.
Nom 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 nom.
I know when
my body feels hot. Parasite Eve right here.
I probably have told you this before, but my education in all of my schools decided to fail me. Not me personally, they just failed people in general. Right. This person failed me. And I played Parasite Eve. I was probably 12 or 13. And that whole, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. When I got to science class, I thought people were quoting Parasite Eve. Because my school never told us, so much of my schooling was just so dumb that, by the time I got to somebody who was competent and they said that, I was like, oh, they played Parasite Eve? No, it's just such a common saying. Anyway, I love Parasite Eve.
Yeah. God, that's so dumb, and I love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chapter 12.
You're most
The Moving
welcome.
Bridge. The Moving Bridge. Laser traps were everywhere, their destructive invisible rays cross-cutting and intersecting the hallway about 4 feet off the ground. Any one of them would have burned a hole right through Solid Snake. Any 2 of them together would have turned him into Swiss cheese. Avoiding the laser traps by means of the infrared goggles, Hallie made his way to the west elevator. He thought he might be able to spot the location of Metal Gear from the roof. Solid Snake took the elevator to the rooftop. 2 terrorist guards were waiting for him, but Hallie threw himself to the floor of the elevator and pressed the button to go down. Bullets penetrated the elevator door, passing over his head. How to get back safely to the roof? Maybe he could trick the guards. Hallie left the elevator at the floor below and pressed the button to send it back up to the roof. Then he raced for the east elevator.
It's like playing Ding Dong Ditch.
I was just gonna say his plan is playing Ding Dong Ditch with the guards.
I love it.
Hallie stepped out of the east elevator and onto the roof of the doors.
Oh, you know what would really suck though? Is if he did that, but then set a Claymore mine.
Ooh.
Because then when the door opens, it would trigger it, and it would go off at every single one of them. That'd be
That's
brilliant.
true. Also, this is the first time I've heard you say that you love anything about this book. Meanwhile, I've been over here like, oh, I love it, it's so bad.
Okay, I was gonna say I hate you because you're right, but no, what I did say I'm pretty sure I said I loved the the rolling pin of doom.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because the fact that they put that in there, it's like, this has no place anywhere in this, but they did it.
In the book. All right, Hallie stepped out of the east elevator and onto the roof just as the doors to the west elevator were opening.
Or opening?
Do your guys have that typo also?
No, it says opening on mine.
I'm gonna take a picture and send it to the send it in. Mine says opa-ing.
Opa!
No, opa-ing. Opa-ing. Okay, hang on, let me go over. Yield tomato. I'm putting it in the podcast updates.
Okay.
Because I can. There you go. You guys got a better beta red version.
Opening!
Opening!
Opening! Nope, that's there. It's real.
Yeah.
Right there.
He watched as the guards let fly with a hail of bullets from their automatic weapons, still believing that Solid Snake was in the west elevator. But he wasn't. He was behind them, only a foot away from their backs with the butt of his Beretta. I keep reading those periods as commas. With the butt of his Beretta, he knocked both of them out cold. They were two more of Katafi's men who'd be out of commission for a long time to come.
What about
Ducking
longer
down.
if you shot him
I know, right?
with your suppressed pistol?
Ducking down, Solid Snake looked out over the top of the Outer Heaven complex. From the roof, he could see a bridge linking Building 1 to Building 2, and another linking Building 2 to Building 3. Suddenly it occurred to Solid Snake that both Dr. Petovich and Metal Gear might easily be in the third building. Convenient. With the clock ticking away, perhaps he could reach them without going through any more of the complex. Just and Hallie set foot on the bridge. The instant that Hallie took his first steps, the bridge began to move. It was made up of overlapping metal plates, and although it appeared solid, it wasn't.
Hey!
Under the Marine captain's weight, combined with the weight of his gear, the plates began to shift one way and then the other, making a yawning gap. Oh yeah, those bridges. This was even more dangerous than the heat panels. Just one small false step and Solid Snake would fall through a gap to the courtyard below, 3 long stories down. He'd be squashed like a bug. People have fallen 3 stories and been fine.
I mean, I've jumped off the roof of a 2-story building before, and I was okay.
Yeah.
It
All right.
sucked, but I didn't break anything. So
Definitely weren't squashed.
yeah.
Loaded down by a grenade launcher and other heavy equipment, Hallie moved with agonizing slowness. Inch by inch, left foot, right foot. He forced himself not to look down, not to think about the concrete pavement 3 stories below.
Okay, that might actually suck. I was landing on dirt and bark chips, so...
Oh, concrete pavement.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
He might break something, at least.
Or everything, possibly.
True. At last, after long, agonizing minutes, Solid Snake crossed the bridge safely. Now he was on the roof of Building 3. In front of him was a small crate. Hallie approached it carefully, then slowly opened the top. He couldn't believe his eyes. There were 2 objects inside. One was a mine detector, and the other was the radio transceiver. Now he could hear what Diana was transmitting. Hallie strapped the equipment to his back and walked to one of the elevators. The door wouldn't open. He walked to the other elevator. None of his key cards would open that one either. So it was back to the rooftop bridge again for another crossing to Building 2. But this time, he was weighed down by even more equipment. Why hasn't he turned the transceiver on?
Also, didn't he stash most of his equipment?
Yeah, but he has a grenade launcher right now.
But, okay, well, what else did he stash then? I mean, I
don't
thought the issue was he had too many grenades in the grenade launcher that was weighing him down.
I don't know, Brandon. I'm not Justin Hallie.
Well, neither is Snake, thankfully.
It's true. Solid Snake hadn't taken more than 3 or 4 steps out into the void when he realized that he was certainly going to fall. It was better to jump than to fall. It was a long way down, but Hallie had made over 200 parachute jumps. There must be a way to minimize the risk. With the panels of the bridge swaying and opening under his feet, Solid Snake had to work quickly. First, he put the body armor He put the body armor on, then he wrapped his weapons as tightly as he could in the bomb blast suit, tying the sleeves around the payload and paying particular attention to the safety of the radio. Attaching the bandoliers to the bulky package, Hallie gently hung them off the bridge and let go. The weapons landed with a thud. Were they still in one piece? Justin Hallie would soon find out. If, that is, he landed in one piece himself. The bridge was swaying worse than ever, and huge cracks had opened between the plates, with the bridge giving way under his... Who make this stupid bridge? What is Big Boss doing?
Remember, it's not Big Boss. It's
It's Kataffy.
Taffy. Taffy.
Taffy. Daffy. The bridge was swaying...
Oh,
wait.
Taffy,
With the bridge giving way under his feet, Hallie wrapped his arms around his knees. He cannonballed off.
Into concrete.
Tucked himself into a ball and jumped over the edge. Whee! Just before he reached the ground, he untucked and gave his body a half twist. As he hit the ground, he rolled over twice, then slammed down hard with both hands. Scrambling to his feet, Justin Hallie felt himself all over. Nothing broken. He checked his weapons. They seemed to be A-OK. Even the radio didn't have a scratch or a dent on it.
Bullshit.
Another successful jump, only this time he had made it without the parachute. Not a jump he'd recommend to his squad as a regular exercise. Without his extensive training, he would have broken a leg, or even worse. Solid Snake took a long look around. The courtyard was thick with trucks and tanks. Hallie crept into the shadow of a truck for a better look. The truck had rations on the front seat, and he was out of rations, thanks to the heat panels, so he pocketed them. But there were armed terrorists everywhere. To divert the guards' attention, Solid Snake decided to blow up a tank. I barely even processed that until I was like, he didn't just throw a rock to the other side. He's like, I'm gonna blow up a tank.
So this confirms that he didn't actually leave any of his shit in that room, because the only other thing that was the mines were the only thing he didn't mention in dropping off that bridge that he did in fact pick up.
True. That's true. Well,
this guy's the king of pockets, I guess.
Hot pocket. Phone buzzing. Anyway.
Okay. To divert the guards' attention, Solid Snake decided to blow up a tank. Placing a couple of anti-tank mines under the tank treads, he set the detonators and crept away unseen. Suddenly, a faint radio transmission, almost blanketed by static, came from the transceiver. What he needed was an antenna so the broadcasts would come in clearly. Justin Hallie could barely hear a woman's voice saying, "Boss man here, watch out, it's a minefield. Try to slip through wearing an enemy uniform." She should specify if it's a literal minefield or not, because these games have actual minefields in them.
Oh, mines? Don't worry about those. Just put on a set of enemy fatigues. You'll be fine.
Yeah, the bombs can tell, or the mines can tell. The message coming out of nowhere left Solid Snake very puzzled. How did Control know where he was? How had they pinpointed him on the edge of a minefield? Hallie had lost his homing device. He didn't know!
Wait.
Because, he lost the homing device. Oh, he didn't. He tore his sleeve, but he lost the compass. I thought because he tore the sleeve, he lost the tracking device, but he didn't.
Yeah. Well, because it depends on where on the sleeve he tore, too.
Yeah, but if they can track him, obviously not the right spot. Hallie had lost his homing device in the trapdoor long ago, but suppose the compass hadn't really been the homing device. The compass had been the only thing that Foxhound Command had let him take into outer heaven, except for a suit of camouflage. The camos had come into outer heaven on Solid Snake's back. For the first time, Justin Hallie realized that somewhere in his suit must be the real homing device. They'd been tracking him all along. But wait. If Control knew where the minefield was, hadn't it also been aware of the heat panels, the shotgunner, and every other hazard that Captain Justin Hallie had faced? Why hadn't Control warned him earlier? Because you didn't have a radio, you dumbass!
Oh, man.
Why had his commander lied to him about the compass? Didn't the leader of the Snake Men trust Justin Hallie? And this is coming from nowhere, because he literally he literally just got the radio. And now, if Solid Snake were to take off his camos and put on an enemy uniform, wouldn't Hallie be off the computers of Foxhound Command? And would that be good or bad? Can I still trust Commander South? Hallie whispered, and didn't know the answer. He felt totally cut off from his command.
So if he whispered that, they heard him.
Yeah. You can often defeat the shotgunner by hitting him 10 times.
Doesn't matter what you do.
With the MAC-10 upside the head.
Yeah.
Or MAC-11, excuse me.
The 11 is more than 10. That's why he went down.
Hey, game hint.
Hey. You hit him 10 times with anything. Like, if you throw, like, a paper towel at him and you hit him, after a couple of paper towels, he just goes down.
Well, at that point, just take out a box of ammunition, count out 10 rounds, and throw them at him.
Or have something with the number 10 on it, or higher.
Oh, God. No, just play the ace. Ha-ha! I beat you at cards. Oh, no.
But you can't use the ace, because in blackjack, the ace is also a 1. You have to have more aces.
Yeah.
Or 11.
Let's just say it's a hand of poker. Ace is high. That's all I got.
All right, here we go. Chapter 13, The Underwater Tunnel. In spite of the dangers that threatened him, in spite of the suspicions he held, no matter how justified he believed they were, Hallie knew that he must continue to follow orders and carry out his mission. His training and discipline would not permit him to disobey a superior officer, even whose motives were suspect. And that feels a little like there should be some loopholes there in your personal code of conduct. Like, okay. If he accepted Control's warning as true and got a hold of an enemy uniform, he'd have to keep his camouflage suit with him always to make certain that the Homer was operative. That would add even more weight to the load he was carrying. By now, Solid Snake was carrying with him enough gear for 3 men. If he could find the homing device, remove it, and take it with him, Hallie could leave the suit of camos behind. But first, he had to find an enemy uniform. Just take one off one of the people you knocked out.
Yeah.
Pull a hitman. Agent 47's been doing this for years. They didn't come empty. He'd have to empty one. Just empty out the suit. Just shake the person out of it.
Just holding it by the ankles. Like, eh.
On feet as quiet as a panther's. That pure panther power.
Yeah,
Solid Snake.
Since you were rolling in its pee. Dumbass.
Solid Snake sneaked up behind an unsuspecting tank guard and rabbit punched him out cold.
What?
It rabbit punched him.
The hell is a rabbit punch?
I don't know. Hang on, I'll look it up. Rabbit punch. A rabbit punch is a blow to the back of the head or the base of the skull. It is considered especially dangerous because it can damage the cervical vertebrae and subsequently the spinal cord, which may lead to serious and irreparable spinal cord injury.
Well, then, not gonna lie, in high school, we did that a lot to each other.
Oh, well, you're lucky that
like karate
you're
chopping
alive.
like that area, because it sent a tingle across like across our backs when we did it. So like, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, you're probably hitting more of a pressure point than your. Although there are a lot of nerves in your spinal cord.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Poor decisions were had in high school.
Yeah.
I was also an idiot when I was 14.
Weren't we all?
Probably.
Working fast, Solid Snake stripped the guard of his uniform. He slipped out of his clothes and put the body armor on again, this time next to his skin. Then he climbed into the enemy uniform and made certain the 4 key cards were safe in his pocket, along with the rations. Hallie picked up his camos and ran his hand carefully over the entire uniform. Sewn into the sleeve, Justin Hallie located the miniaturized homing device. I wonder if I wouldn't put it in, like, the tag. Like, I would notice a weird bump in my sleeve, but I wouldn't pay as much attention to when it's in the tag. Whatever.
Yeah, I get that.
Now he wouldn't have to bring along the entire uniform, only the sleeve. He's keeping it with him. Ripping off the sleeve, Solid Snake stuffed it into the pocket of the terrorist uniform he was now wearing. Employing the mine detector to protect him from hidden mines, Hallie took his first steps out on the minefield. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know how explosions sound, actually. Behind him, Solid Snake heard a series of explosions. The tank he'd mined had been blown sky high. It was a monumental diversion, noisy and deadly. Frightened terrorists were running in every direction, yelling in fear. But Solid Snake couldn't stop to look back. Watching every step he took, Captain Halley managed to make his way through the minefield. Just ahead was a storage shed in a clearing. It must hold something vital, thought Halley. Using keycard 4, he unlocked the shed. Inside, tied to a chair, was a captured Snake Man. He had been severely beaten. Solid Snake untied the man. "Bill, it's me," he said. "Never mind the enemy uniform. It's Solid Snake." The prisoner made gasping noises. Halley knelt by the wounded man's side and put his ear close to Solid Snake Man's lips. "Dr. Petovich is on the second floor of Building 2, gasped the prisoner. And put his ear close to Solid Snake Man's lips.
Wait, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? Halley's putting his own ear by his own lips?
It's
No.
movable.
Halley was knelt by the wounded man's side and put his ear to his Solid Snake.
Well, yeah, and now it sounds like Solid Snake's mouth is next to the other guy's ear, which doesn't make sense if the other guy is talking.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second.
Typo to increase
Dr.
word count.
Huh?
Typo to increase word count.
Dr. Petovich is on the second floor of Building 2, gasped the prisoner and closed his eyes. As the man passed out, his fingers pointed to a tile on the floor, one that appeared to be the same as any other tile in the room. But Halley looked more closely. If I die under mysterious circumstances, I just hope that I just want to point in like a random direction or like spell something out in my blood as I'm dying just to confuse people.
I did not read forward on this, but I see it now.
Oh God.
It's really dumb.
I think I just saw it too. Alright. The tile was loose. He moved it and underneath was keycard 5. Solid Snake picked it up and pocketed it. Could he believe this man? Was Dr. Petovich on the second floor, or was it a trap? I would have more questions about the keycard underneath the floor tile of a prisoner's interrogation room. Halley made a thorough search of the storage shed. He picked up a few more rations and made a very useful find, an antenna. Now the transceiver would work a lot better, and the radio transmissions from Control would come in more clearly. Dr. Halley decided to try for Dr. Petovich on the second floor of Building 2, as the dying Snake Man had told him. But when he reached the second floor, Solid Snake encountered a huge, deep tank of liquid between himself. Ooh. Sorry. Something like dislodged itself from between my teeth. Sorry. Between himself and his next objective. Was the liquid plain water or something far more deadly, such as acid? Whatever it was, Captain Halley didn't trust the look of it. Even so, he was going to have to get across it somehow. He approached it with a probing look, trying to scope it out. In the center of the tank, deep under the surface of the liquid, was what appeared to be an underwater tunnel. Where did it lead? Was it the entrance to where Solid Snake should go next, or was it another of Katafi's traps? Or both? Once again, Solid Snake was facing a crucial test. Just toss something into the water and see what happens.
Just like take your shoelaces, tie them together, depending on how long this is, and just dip it in, wait 5 seconds, and see if your laces are any shorter.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, let's bob for apples real quick, guys. Come on.
Yeah. The underwater tunnel had to be investigated, but it might be a false tunnel with no opening at the other end. Captain Halley could be trapped down there and drown. That's genius. Just trap your enemies down there. Also, he was loaded down with heavy equipment, weapons he would need to succeed in his mission. Although he was a powerful swimmer, Solid Snake would be hampered by the weight of his gear. And who knew how long the underwater tunnel might be? A few hundred yards? A mile? 10 miles? How long could Halley hold his breath? Can he hold his breath for 10 miles? Which was the fail-safe point beyond which there was no turning back again. None of these questions had easy answers. Precious moments were being wasted in what-ifs. There was only one thing to do, and that was to dive in. Oh my god. Strapping his equipment to his back,
God.
Solid Snake filled his lungs with all the air they could hold, executed a perfect jackknife into the water, and swam toward the underwater tunnel. Inside the tunnel, it was pitch black. He didn't even test the water, even though he was like, this could be poisonous.
I'm a do it. Whee!
Inside the tunnel, it was pitch black. He swam for what seemed to be a long time. A very long time. The air in Captain Halley's lungs was depleting fast, but there was still no end to the tunnel. It just went on and on, getting darker and darker, and Solid Snake realized with grim certainty that he was in a trap. It was already too late to swim back to the starting point. Halley's breath would never hold out that long, and he was already beginning to feel lightheaded. He couldn't make it to the surface because the heavy equipment was holding him down as though he'd been tied to a rock. The situation appeared to be hopeless. Solid Snake would drown, and Metal Gear would destroy the civilized world. Yet Halley could not give up, not while he still had air in his lungs. Suddenly, he saw at the side of the tunnel a small door. He swam to it and tried it. Locked. By now, things were turning black in front of his eyes, and there was almost no air left in his lungs. Perhaps he could unlock the door with a keycard. There was very little time left. He'd only have one chance to get that door open before he blacked out and drowned. Which card should he try? The new one. Keycard 5. Why would you have a tunnel that opens with one of your key cards?
The tunnel's fine. It's the flooded part that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like that door, man.
With
watertight.
With wet and feeble hands. Like, of course they're wet. They're underwater. Justin Halley fished the keycard out of his pocket and managed to get it into the lock. He was on the verge of passing out. And then the secret entrance opened and Halley swam through it into the shallow gutter at the side of the underwater tunnel. As he did, his hand scraped along the side of the tunnel and found something. Without thinking, he held on tightly to what he'd found. Raising his face to the surface, Solid Snake drew in great ragged gulps of air. Looking around, he saw that he had reached the other side of the huge tank. He was saved. What? No!
Oh my god. That's why I said no.
Wet and trembling with exhaustion, Solid Snake drew himself out of the pool and lay on the rim, panting and gasping. He'd allow himself no more than 60 seconds to get his strength back, then he had to go on. The mission was waiting. Dr. Petovich was waiting. Maybe even here on the second floor, as the dying Snake Man had said. Halley scrambled to his feet. As he was about to shoulder his gear, he remembered that he was holding something in his hand. The thing he'd picked up in the underwater tunnel. He looked at it.
So
it
dumb.
was keycard 6.
This is so fucking dumb.
Game hint. Don't always believe the map you get or what you hear on the radio. You'll find a lot of misinformation.
It's so dumb.
I can't. I turned to the page and saw keycard 6 and was like, oh, my god.
No, it's really dumb though.
Alright, chapter 14, Trained Killer Scorpions.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
I'm just imagining, like, the size of my palm, these little scorpions, a bunch of them, all turn at the same time to face me and, like, prick up their tail and open their claws. It's like, oh, no.
They all have little guns.
Okay. No, they've got knives instead of a crab battle. It's a scorpion battle. Crab broke my knife.
The first room Solid Snake opened on the second floor held a prisoner, but it was not Dr. Petovich. It was a member of the squad. As he released the Snake Man, Halley received this message. Listen to Resistance Fighter Jennifer on waveband 12048. 12048. According to Commander South's instructions, Justin Halley's receiver had been set on 12033. Now he reset the wavelength and attached the antenna. How does he know what wavelength it would be on?
Why did he just now put the antenna on?
Yeah. Alright. He reset the wavelength and attached the antenna. Almost at once, Solid Snake heard loud and clear a woman's voice coming over the transceiver. It was a voice... Oh, it wasn't a voice that he'd heard before. It was not Diana. Jennifer here. I'll set up the rocket launchers. Come and get one. Over. Without delay, Halley went in search of the rocket launchers, following Jennifer's radio signal by rotating the antenna and using it as a direction finder.
Ooh, rocket launcher.
The radio transmission led him around corners and through a long corridor. At the end of the corridor was a row of giant packing crates. Solid Snake realized that the crates might hold the rocket launchers, but most likely were another of Katafi's fiendish traps. Which of them contained the rocket launchers? Which was the trap? Up to now, Hallie had always stayed away from the middle of everything he'd encountered in outer heaven. The middle crate, the middle truck. But now he had a feeling. Instinct told him that at this stage of the game, Colonel Katafi would be ringing in some changes. Yeah, probably, this is what we call author interference. He thought for the first time in the middle crate would be the safe one. And it was. One more time, Solid Snake's instincts had served him well. The middle crate held the rocket launcher the middle crate held the rocket launcher. Behind the crates, he saw a door partially hidden.
Wait.
Does yours
Yep,
say
it says hidden.
Partially hidden behind. Behind the crate.
If they had put a comma there, it would work a little bit better.
Yes, partially hidden. Hidden behind one of the pillars that held up the ceiling. Yeah. Using key card 6, Hallie got the door open. Inside was Dr. Petovich. At last, Solid Snake took an eager step forward, then stopped. All of his highly developed Snake Man instincts told him that something was wrong here. He smelled a trap. It's probably just the panther musk.
Yeah.
Where were the guards? There ought to be guards inside the room with a prisoner, as vitally important to the Metal Gear project as Dr. Petovich. Also, keycard 6, because there's 8 keycards, and we made a whole thing about how there's no reason for keycard 7 because only Colonel Katafi, like his 2 right-hand people, had 6, but then only he had 7 and 8. So, like, what was the point of having?
Yeah, like why have an 8th one?
Yeah. So, are you saying that one of Agent Katafi's or whatever, or Colonel Katafi's right-hand men dropped their key card into the sewer tank?
Or whatever? Shit, yeah. No, maybe he was trying to get through, and he dropped it as he passed out and died in the underwater tunnel. You know, like the Sorrow.
You're giving them way too much credit.
Yeah,
yes, I am.
Taking one of the mines from his arsenal, Hallie rolled it gently across the floor to where the doctor was sitting tied to a chair. The man didn't move, not so much as the flicker of an eyelash. This isn't the scientist, Solid Snake said to himself. It's a dummy. A booby-trapped dummy. Solid Snake fired a burst from his Mac-2 and the thing exploded, shattering into wires and stuffing. Hallie hurled himself to the floor and covered his head the same instant the mine under the dummy's chair went off with an ear-shattering blast. It would be really horrible if that was actually Dr. Petovich, but he just, like, was so out that he didn't react, and so Snake blew up Dr. Petovich.
That's so dumb. Oh my god.
Yes.
My instincts tell me that I should fire the Mac-11. Instead of, my suppressed pistol.
Yeah. Yeah, why am I going to fire this super loud gun?
Let's comment on how he picks up all these guns and instead chooses to swing them like bats, throw them, or, just... You could be the guy I'm here to save, but I'm going to shoot you.
Like you do.
Yeah.
He hurled himself to the floor and covered his head the same instant that the mine under the dummy's chair went off with an ear-shattering blast. As he picked himself up and brushed the fragments from his uniform, Justin Hallie discovered, in the debris on the floor, key card 7.
Why?
All right. The radio began to beep at him as control signal was received again. Hallie heard the same female voice. Jennifer here. I have a compass for you. Follow my signal. Over. A thin, high signal began to emanate from the transceiver, and a second or two later it was matched by a transmission coming from one of the locked rooms in the hallway. Using key card 4, he just knew, Solid Snake located the compass. The room next door was unlocked by key card 6. Why? Why is one door in locked by key card 4, but the other door in is locked by key card 6?
And let's note that he has not been here before.
Yeah, and he's just like, click, click, click. I know.
Yeah.
It held no prisoners, nothing but a small bottle. Cautiously, Hallie opened it, held it away from his nose, and with his other hand fanned a little of the fumes towards his face and took a sniff. He's so stupid. Solid Snake recognized the odor of the chemical from his training with the Snake Men. It was an all-purpose antidote to a number of deadly poisons. Quickly, he tucked the little bottle into his uniform belt. Suddenly, Justin Hallie heard the heavy thumping of running boots. Terrorist guards were on the way. He had to get out of there. He raced down a corridor, through a back door, and down a set of stairs that took him directly into a into a desert. A desert? Here in the jungle? Impossible, at least in nature. No, it had to be man-made, another trap of Cataphies.
Or training ground.
Yeah. Heaven only knew what awaited Solid Snake in the sands of a terrorist's phony desert. Oddly, Hallie felt elated. The presence of the unlikely desert here in the middle of nowhere led him to believe that he was much closer to Metal Gear than before. The more difficult the obstacle, the nearer to the goal. As Justin Hallie took out his compass to lead him across the desert, he heard a strange whirring noise. It sounded like something shuffling across the hot sands. Something huge and dangerous.
A giant rolling pin?
Ooh. We can only hope. Before he could react to the sound, 3 giant creatures slowly came into view. Hallie was nervous. These were trained killer scorpions.
Oh, God.
Katafi used them to destroy his enemies, and now they were coming at him. Poisonous stings held high in the sting position.
Yeah, poisonous stings, not stingers.
Yeah, this is a terrible sentence. In the sting position. What a horrifying sight! Even a man with the courage of Marine Captain Justin Hallie had to turn pale. I really wish that they'd tacked everything on there, so it's like Marine Captain Justin Hallie, Snake Man Solid Snake Man or whatever.
Solid Snake Man, yeah.
The trained killer scorpions were mutants, raised to grow between 15 and 17 feet high.
Fucking what? This is Resident Evil 0 up in here.
Their poison stings were as long and thick as a javelin. They had eyes that bugged out of their heads on stalks, and the stalks kept twisting this way and that, searching for their quarry. And they'd caught sight of Solid Snake. He could tell, because a horrifying high-pitched buzzing came out of the 3 of them, the sound of evil excitement. Yeah, that's how he knew, and not by the fact that they're coming towards him.
Or that, all the stalks just decided to twitch over into his direction.
Yeah. Slowly, they turned in his direction, and slowly they moved towards Hallie. Well, thank goodness they're slow. He can probably outrun them. Their bodies were covered with scales, and the scales made a sickening noise as they dragged across the burning sands of the desert. The curled tails of the trained killer scorpions were raised high, poised to strike, to sting, and to kill. They were slow. But what was the need for haste? Where could Solid Snake go? The desert, seemingly stretching around him for miles, was empty of shelter, and the sun was hot enough to broil a man alive. He had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He could go back in the building he just came from.
Yeah, it's like, or you could just go back through the last door.
Yeah, find a different way around.
Or the grenade launcher you picked up, 12 chapters ago.
There's, 1 million trucks in this compound. Go find one,
just run
dumbass.
Run the 17-foot tall scorpions over.
No, go around. Just go around them.
Go around. Just go around.
All right. Sorry.
All right.
Nowhere to hide, but the scorpions loved the desert heat. They thrived on it and grew to enormous sizes. All they needed to survive was furnace heat and the frequent opportunity to make a kill. Justin Hallie would have to stand and fight. He sorted through his weapons as the trained killer scorpions came closer. I could just imagine him having them spread out in front of him while he's like, this one has really good range, but this one hits harder, but I'd have to let them get closer. And meanwhile, the scorpions are like, is this guy serious? We're right here.
I can hear you, man.
He could smell them now. They smelled foul. Solid Snake wait. But he was just sorting through his weapons. Solid Snake fired again and again until the clip of his Beretta was empty, and still they came, dragging their scales over the burning sands. Nothing seemed to stop them. Not Hallie's grenades, nor his Mac. It's 2 eyes. I'm reading that as a 2. He braced himself, dropping a rocket down the... dropping... I was like, where is he dropping the rocket? Dropping the rocket down the breech of his rocket launcher and aiming through the sight. Solid Snake slammed his hand on the trigger button, and the rocket exploded from the tube. One scorpion exploded in a noxious burst of matter. He fired again. The rocket launcher was hot to the touch. The disposable firing tube wouldn't take much more use. A miss. He missed a 17-foot scorpion with a rocket launcher?
I never want to hear someone complain about the twin snakes on GameCube again.
No. Also, Jill Valentine would be very disappointed in him.
Lots of people would be disappointed.
I'm disappointed in him.
Literally, like, take Ethan Winters, who has no prior combat experience, Alan Wake is disappointed in him.
Ooh.
Another rocket launched, then another, and the second of the trained killer scorpions blew apart messily. But the third one kept coming at Hallie. Nothing appeared to faze the creature, not even the sudden explosive death of its brothers. Its stinger washed... Oh, now it has a stinger. Its
not a
stinger waved over its head, eager to plunge into Solid Snake's heart. Loading the rocket launcher, Hallie hit the trigger button, but it misfired, and the rocket wasn't launched. Was the rocket launcher still operational? There seemed to be no stopping this evil creature. Ammunition of any kind showed no effect on it. The scorpion would have to be hit head-on with everything he had.
Mine says thing, but I believe you because clearly with hoping.
Yeah, I'm still gonna show you guys.
Oh, it's everything we got.
Does your guys just say everything?
Yes.
Wow. I feel blessed for this version.
Okay, scorpion with everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right there, everything.
With everything he had, Solid Snake waited until the monster was almost on top of him. He waited until he could see the color of the creature's beady eyeball. It was green. Then, and only then, did he turn and aim the rocket launcher dead on target. But would the rocket launcher fire or misfire again? I do not want to have an enemy scorpion on top of me and then wonder if my rocket launcher is gonna go off.
Also, not a 17-foot tall one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You've got easily 11 feet on me. You probably weigh a literal ton. I really don't want that on top of me.
Yeah. And, like, for him to be like, wonder if my rocket launcher's gonna jam again. That's not the time to be wondering this.
No.
Yeah.
Also, if a rocket works, why didn't the grenades? They also go kaboom.
I don't know.
This is dumb.
Well, the rocket... There you go. The last explosion caught the giant lumbering creature full in the chest. With an eerie high scream, it blew into a million poisonous fragments. Solid Snake was clear.
Wow. So on the PDF, Solid Snake was clear. Is a completely dedicated page. Nothing else there.
It's very important. All right, chapter 15. Ellen. Hallie headed across the desert for Building 3 of Outer Heaven, determined to let nothing stand in his way. He had to rescue Dr. Petovich and his daughter, and destroy Metal Gear before the evil weapon could be put to use against the nations of democracy. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Sure. Katafi was asking... Huh?
No more Mr. Nice Snake. Missed opportunity.
Katafi was asking for it now. There were trucks parked in front of the building's side entrance, but a few mines took them out. Within seconds, he was in the building and using keycard 7 to get the elevator working.
Which shouldn't exist.
I know. On the second floor, the rooms were opened by keycard 5. Why? If you have to have keycard 7 to even get up to this floor, why does keycard 5 work up there?
Because he hates everyone.
This is stupid. And also, every key card number should be able to open all of the doors that the previous ones could open.
Yeah, it's the whole concept of security clearance. So
Yeah.
realistically, keycard 7 should open 5 doors as well.
Yes. And keycard 2 should be able to open the doors for 2 and 1.
Unless you're crazy, like this guy is.
I don't want to have to carry around 15 key cards and then be like, oh god, which one is... What does this door take again?
Yeah,
this is stupid.
This is the guy who's like licking the freshly clean linoleum floor and asking, why does it taste like penis?
Oh my god. Solid Snake let himself into one of the rooms and saw nothing. The room appeared to be entirely empty, and yet Hallie felt a prickle along his skin. His trained instincts were telling him that something was here, something of vital importance. He went to the far wall and ran his finger along the rough stone. Let me guess. It felt solid, looked solid, and yet the tips of Solid Snake's fingers touched a line running like a crack in the stone from the ceiling to the floor. He pressed harder, harder. The crack widened, and a secret compartment in the wall opened up. A figure was stuffed into the secret compartment, which was barely large enough to hold it. It was a girl, bound and gagged and unconscious. Solid Snake took... What?
Hold on. Was she just like...
She's stuffed in a wall.
We got a hole in the wall here, guys. Let's put a person in it and slap some clay on there. It'll be fine.
Yeah, why wouldn't they just kill her? Why would they stuff her in a wall to die?
Insulation. We gotta keep warm, guys. Come on.
It's winter.
In the jungle.
Solid Snake took the choking gag off and revived the girl gently. But when she saw the terrorist uniform that Hallie was wearing, she began to scream. The poor girl was obviously terrified. That's why she's screaming! It's all right. And Hallie put his hand firmly back over her mouth. I'm not one of Katafi's men. I'm Captain Hallie of the Snake Men Squad. I would not believe him. If somebody came to me, if I'd been kidnapped and captured and someone was like, I'm from the Snake Men Squad, I'd be like, you could at least do better at making up your fake organization.
See, and the worst part is, too, with a name like Snake Men, and it's a woman, it's like,
yeah.
No. Just kill me.
Yeah, hard pass,
I'm Captain
thanks.
Hallie of the Snake Men.
Be like, get your rapiness away from me.
Stranger danger!
I'm Captain Hallie of the Snake Men Squad. I'll take my hand away if you promise not to scream, okay? The girl nodded and mumbled something. Carefully, Solid Snake took his hand away. Are you all right? He asked her in a low voice. The girl nodded through her tears. I'm okay, she whispered back. Are you Ellen, Dr. Petovich's daughter? Yes, I am. Have you found my father? The girl cried eagerly.
Yeah, I shot him.
Not yet. Not yet, but soon, I promise. Both of you will go home safely. Solid Snake looked at her face carefully. She looked tired and probably hungry, but she didn't seem to have been hurt. Look, I'm going to untie you now and take you somewhere to hide. I think you'll be safe until I come back for you. Try to hang in there and be brave. I'll try, but I'm worried about my father, said the girl urgently. Not as worried as I am. So that's her dad. Of course she's more worried than you are, you asshole.
I'm worried. Not as worried. It's not a contest.
It really isn't a contest, Snake.
I'm more worried. Sure you are.
No, I'm going to get word to him that you're alive, so don't worry anymore. Stay as quiet as you can and leave everything to me. I'll see to it that both of you get out of here safe and sound. Now put your arm around my neck and lean on me. You're a brave girl, Ellen. I'm taking you out of here. Hallie left the girl in another room, making a mental note of which door she was behind, then set off down the corridor. He was convinced that both Dr. Petovich and Metal Gear were somewhere here in Building 3. Was there a basement in this building? He should check that out without delay. Oh my god. Neither the east nor west elevator had a button for the basement, but that meant there could be stairs hidden somewhere. If only he could find them. Maybe he could get some advice from Control. He spun the tuning dial on the radio. Solid Snake? Solid Snake? Boss man here. It was Diana, transmitting on the frequency assigned to her by Commander South. Justin heard the faint radio signal and recognized Diana's voice, but he paid no attention to the transmission. Hallie realized now that Diana's signals had been misleading him all along, and that Jennifer was really his Control, a true freedom fighter. How? He's hardly said anything to her.
Yeah, like, where do you get that from, Snake?
Yeah, the only thing Solid Snake didn't know was how much damage Diana might already have done. She has said almost nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's had nothing. Game hint. Be sure to knock out all the guards before you enter the heat panels. Eat your rations midway through.
No.
God, we're almost done. All right, chapter 16, the map, which I thought in the book font said the mop.
Might as well. Time to mop these guys up.
Solid Snake found himself facing 3 doors. At first, he decided on the left-hand room, but as he approached it, all his instincts triggered a warning. Don't go in there. He changed his mind for the right-hand door instead, and keycard 7 opened it. Hallie expected to find a small room, but instead the door opened into a vast, well-lit area, with locked doors running along all the sides of the 4 walls. Suddenly, from his transceiver came Jennifer's voice. Be careful not to kill him. He's my brother. If anything happens to my brother, I can't help you anymore. Her brother? Jennifer had a brother here in Outer Heaven? But why was she mentioning it now? The room seemed empty.
Oh, okay.
Hallie turned the first... Huh?
I just remembered something.
Oh. Hallie turned to the first locked door on his left. Using keycard 7, Solid Snake opened the door. 3 Snake Men prisoners were inside, in a tiny room. The man in the middle was sitting bound, but not gagged. That man was Bob O'Reilly, Eagle Man, Justin Hallie's best friend in the Snake Men squad. When he saw his friend, Solid Snake broke into a wide grin and started towards him, but Eagle Man cried out to him in an agonized voice. No, Solid Snake, don't take another step towards me. I've been booby-trapped, rigged up to plastic explosives. I don't know where the detonator is. We'll all be blown sky-high if you lay a finger on me. Listen to me, Justin. I am Jennifer's brother. My life is not important. Only the destruction of Metal Gear is important. You're very close. How many key cards do you have? 7, answered Hallie. Good. There are 8 key cards, so you only need 1 more. Metal Gear is hidden in the basement of this building, and Dr. Petovich is a prisoner there. It's very near to completion, and when it's complete, it will detonate a series of catastrophic explosions all over the free world. You must get a hold of key card 8. It's the only card that will unlock the basement location. Every second is precious. Go. Go now. Bob, I can't leave you here like this, Solid Snake protested. You don't have a choice, Justin, replied Eagle Man softly. You'd better hurry. There was nothing for Solid Snake to do but obey, to leave Jennifer's brother, his best friend, tied up and booby-trapped. Justin left the room, but he didn't get far. All right. If that's his best friend, why didn't he know he had a sister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
They're not that close.
Also, why are they not all named after snakes if they're in the Snake Men?
Yeah, but also, like, so in Metal Gear Solid 1, there's, like, a point when Naomi and Snake are talking, and he's like, yeah, Frank Yeager was my friend, and she's like, oh, did you know him? And he's like, not very well, and she's like, oh, so, like, how did you know each other? And he's like, we didn't share personal stories, we just fought on a battlefield together. And it's like, okay, well, so maybe you just don't get close to people the way that normal people do.
Yeah, he also fought him, like, directly.
Yeah. Yeah, but, like, they, like, he was like, yeah, he's my friend. I don't know, we didn't really talk much.
He's like, he's my friend, but the scale for what he counts as a friend is really low.
Yeah.
That guy's my friend. He just gave you a mint. He's the waiter.
Hey.
Yeah, but I didn't have to pay for it, so...
Yeah.
You know,
No.
Friend with benefits?
Hey, mint benefits.
Ooh, minty fresh.
Justin left the room, but he didn't get far. The vital minutes were counting down, but Hallie could not leave Eagle Men and the 2 other Snake Men to die. It was an impossible decision for him to make. He turned back. As Hallie came back into the room, he realized already that Katafi's evil was was at work. He smelled poison gas. The Snake Men were going to die. Putting his gas mask on, Solid Snake ran into the room and freed the 2 Snake Men on either side of Eagle Man, dragging them out. They were barely breathing, but still alive. Now for Eagle Man. But how to get him out of the poison gas when he was booby-trapped with explosives? In the doorway, Solid Snake watched in horror as Jennifer's brother's eyes shut and his head fell forward on his chest. The poison gas was beginning to work. The weight of Eagle Man's sagging body pulled his chair over with him. Instinctively, Captain Hallie braced himself against the imminent explosion of the booby trap. But there was no explosion. As Eagle Man had slumped forward, his chair had pulled a wire loose from the trap. The chair had disconnected the detonator. Literally, that's what it took.
That's so stupid.
And so, how what's the word I'm even looking for? Incompetent is every single person in this vase. Instantly, Solid Snake seized Eagle Man and half-dragged, half-carried his friend out of the gas-filled room. He tried CPR, breathing fresh air down into Eagle Man's lungs, but his friend didn't respond. It looked as though Solid Snake Man were dead. What? But why does it say Solid Snake Man?
Wait, what?
What does yours guys say? Where it says his friends didn't respond, it looked as though...
It says Eagle Man, we're dead. Does yours say Snake Man?
Mine says Solid Snake Man.
Pictures or it didn't happen.
Oh my god, I'm already on it.
Oh, I'm loving this. You have the best version of this book.
Oh my god.
So we got Oping, Everything, and...
But, so...
Solid Snake Man!
Your guys' did earlier say Solid Snake Man when it was supposed to be, like...
Yeah.
The other... Okay.
Yeah, that one it did, but it's like, you have the best version because it says all of the bad things.
Yeah, this is a really good one. Oh my god. But Hallie wouldn't give up hope. Remembering the little bottle of antidote, he poured some of the liquid down his friend's throat, and in less than a minute, he heard the choking and gagging that told him Eagle Man was alive. In jubilation, Solid Snake pounded Jennifer's brother happily on the back, and then he made a discovery. No! Pinned to the back of Eagle Man's uniform, in a mocking gesture of Colonel Katafi's, was key card 8. The last card, the one that Katafi had never expected anybody to find. He had thought it would be destroyed when the booby trap exploded. Incompetent.
Why would you even put it there?
There is zero reason. God. This is so stupid.
Okay, I need... Keycard 8 is the single most important keycard I have. In fact, I carry it all at me at all times. You know what? Today's not that day. Today, I'm gonna pin it on a guy like he's going to kindergarten. Hopefully nobody notices.
My god. Oh my god! This is so stupid. Alright, here we go.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Hallie now had the final key card to Metal Gear. Although he held all 8 key cards and the clue from Eagle Man that Metal Gear was in the basement, Hallie still didn't know exactly where to find Metal Gear. He only knew that the basement would be the most heavily guarded place in all of Outer Heaven. And first, he would have to find the stairs that led to the basement. None of the elevators were programmed to go there. If only he had more time! Justin Hallie was slowed down by the equipment he was carrying, but he was afraid to leave any of it behind. Not knowing what he'd be up against, he didn't know which weapons would be most effective. Did he really need all 8 of his key cards? Eagle Man said that the 8th one was the key to Metal Gear. Maybe he ought to think about leaving the other 7 behind, so that he wouldn't have to waste even a moment looking for key card 8. But all of the equipment that...
What if the door needs key card 5?
What if the door takes all 8 key cards?
Oh, snap!
Also, sorry, but of all of the equipment, like, I'm just saying, if I was, like, weighed down with stuff in, like, a backpack and my pockets, the credit cards in my wallet would be the last thing I'd think of getting rid of to maintain weight. Yeah. Or to, like, take weight off.
In this case, the keys to your car and house.
Yeah.
I would probably leave the mines.
The mines, yes. I would dump. And mines can get really heavy.
Yeah, that's pretty big, too.
The mines could probably be good against Metal Gear, as could the rocket and grenade launcher. You don't need a Beretta. You don't need your Mac 2. You don't need, like, all of these other stupid weapons. Throw off that, like, suit that you're wearing and just put on, like, the enemy suit. Like, you don't need to have the body armor. I mean, I guess that's helpful. But, like, there's a lot of other shit that he needs. Or that he doesn't need. I don't know why he's looking at the key cards. This is so stupid.
It's about to get dumber.
Oh, God. Looking to separate keycard 8 from the rest, Solid Snake shuffled through the keycards in his hand, and as he did so, he noticed something for the first time. Something most unusual. On the backs of the key... No, it's not a map. On the backs of the keycards were printed different pieces... were printed different pieces of the same design, like a puzzle. It actually was a puzzle, and when Hallie laid the cards out together in a certain way, he saw the design for the first time. It was the same insignia that was all over the compound. Oh, okay, painted on the sides of the trucks the badge on the enemy uniform that Solid Snake himself was wearing, a grinning, fanged reptile entwined around a twisted, broken tree. The insignia in itself didn't surprise Justin Halley, but there was something more. With all the cards laid out, he noticed for the first time that the design actually incorporated a map of outer heaven. This is so stupid. Yep. There in the coils of Solid Snake. What? Is that what... In the coils of Solid Snake?
Yep.
Were the different buildings and levels he'd gone through. I feel like there was a point where he just like did a control find and just like replaced certain words with... He checked out at some point.
Yeah.
The beginning.
Yeah. After the third word, I was like, I'm done with this.
There in the coils of Solid Snake were the different buildings and levels he'd gone through. He could make out the heat panels in the underwater tunnel and the desert with the trained killer scorpions. And there, in the center of Solid Snake's eye, it's a very small star. Solid Snake knew at once that the star represented the weapon Metal Gear. The rest of the map showed him exactly where in the basement to find it, and where the stairs must be leading to the basement.
Dude, you are grasping at straws.
Yeah. Committing the map to memory, Halley went in search of the stairway. According to the map, the stairway ought to be very near one of the pillars that held up the ceiling of the first level. Swiftly, Halley made his way to the pillar, but saw nothing. No sign of any stairway around it, yet Solid Snake was certain that he was in the right place. A sudden burst of gunfire chattered angrily past his head. Captain Halley dove for cover. There wasn't any cover, only the presence of the pillar, which he hugged with his body. It wasn't much protection, but it was all there was. The situation looked hopeless. He was right there, out in the open, in the middle of a firefight, and he couldn't even see the terrorists. They were protected, shooting at him from their hiding places. All he could do was stay close to the pillar. What? Solid Snake touched something. It felt like a lock, and down low in the base of the pillar. Oh, it felt like a lock down low in the base of the pillar. A lock, that was it. The stairway wasn't near the pillar. It was inside the pillar. How convenient.
So a ladder.
Key card 8. He had only seconds to find it. Why hadn't he thrown the other cards away? At last, key card 8 was in Halley's hand. Fitting it into the slot, Halley looked up to see 4 guards breaking cover, racing at him with assault rifles. There wasn't a second to spare. Would keycard 8 do the trick? A click. The side of the pillar opened like a narrow door. Solid Snake, grabbing up his gear, threw himself headlong into the opening and slammed the door behind him. He found himself falling into total darkness. Interesting that he's falling, but he could still slam the door behind him.
Yeah.
Head first, Halley rolled down and down, unable to stop himself. Oh, chapter 17, Metal Gear. When he finally came to a halt...
Get it over with already, God!
His head slammed painfully against a step. Sitting up, Solid Snake felt himself all over to see if anything was broken. Everything hurt, but everything seemed to be intact, although he had a headache that a Himalayan mountain of aspirin couldn't cure. That's what we call an overdose? I feel like that could cure his headache.
Yeah, it would also make him see many things that aren't there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like the Himalayan.
Yeah, like the literal mountain that he just consumed.
Just as Halley had hoped, the pillar was hiding a stairway leading to the basement. Of course, he'd expected to be going down the stairs on his feet, not his head. A huge bump was beginning to rise on the back of his skull, but he didn't have time to pay it any mind. Hugging the shadows, Solid Snake made his way cautiously down the remaining stairs. He was so close to his objective now that he could almost taste it. But all of a sudden, he felt his body sagging. Weariness and fatigue overcame him, and he was so tired he could barely take another step.
Blood loss will do that.
It was a...
Blood loss will do that, after you crack your head open.
Oh, yeah. It was a long, long time since Halley had rested or eaten, and he was out of rations. When? When did he run out of rations? Last I heard, he had a bunch.
Yeah, he had a bunch. Also, the last time he ate was in the flaming room. He ate kind of recently.
Like, a lot, too. Like, all of it.
Yeah, he probably has to take a massive dump.
Oh, man.
That's the problem. Also, the weight of the heavy equipment he was carrying was sapping his strength, and his headache Perhaps from a slight concussion, it was pounding away inside his skull, making it hard to think straight. He tried to pull himself together, but it was very hard. Although the young Marine captain was well aware of the urgency for haste, he was afraid of making mistakes in judgment given his weakened condition. This was the most crucial part of the mission, and Justin Halley couldn't afford to make one false move. As Solid Snake entered the basement, he heard guards all around him. Halley knew that they were getting ready to unleash an attack on the free world, putting into operation the most powerful and deadly weapon ever devised by the mind of an evil man. If he used his weapons here, Solid Snake would reveal his presence before he even got to Metal Gear. He had to act as covertly as he could, disabling guards from behind rather than shooting them. He hasn't been shooting anyone!
Yeah.
Wait, he shot scorpions? No, wait. He put out explosives at scorpions.
Well, no, he did shoot the scorpions. Didn't do shit, though.
Yeah. His snake men training, not his powerful guns, mines, or grenades, was the only tactic he could rely on to get him to Metal Gear. One by one, using nothing but his bare hands, Captain Halley took on the terrorist guards. His expertise in Tai Chi, the special breathing, and the natural movements of the animal world made Solid Snake a graceful shadow silently stalking the enemy's stronghold. Like a jungle cat, Halley prowled unseen and pounced without warning. His on all fours. His karate blows and rabbit punches, delivered with trained precision, took out one enemy guard after another, and all in silence. The odd thing was that with every terrorist down, Solid Snake felt his strength beginning to return. He's stealing their life force.
There can be only one.
He knew that he was coming closer and closer to his objective. And then, turning a corner with the image of the keycard map fixed in his memory, Solid Snake came face to face for the first time with Metal Gear. As soon as he saw it, Halley recognized it. Nothing that huge and ugly could be anything else than Metal Gear. It was a tall, wide machine made out of a shining black metal that Solid Snake had never seen before. The metal itself seemed to radiate evil. Could this mysterious, unknown metal be the source of Metal Gear's deadly power? Metal Gear was truly awesome, menacing, and strange. On its side was painted the deadly insignia that Halley had first seen in the jungle and later encountered everywhere in Outer Heaven. But displayed on the weapon, the evil markings took on a new and even darker meaning. Part of the machine was outfitted with a keyboard and a printer. It's a dot matrix printer.
With like a 6-foot tall like mountain of paper next to it.
You have to like tear the edging things off. Like, you know, those perforated edges.
It says it's low on brake fluid.
What is it? This is the most evil type of printer I can find. Dot matrix. Just sounds angry every time.
Loud noises!
So Solid Snake knew at once that what he'd suspected about Metal Gear was true. It was computer controlled and probably hooked up to a network of computers located throughout the terrorist nations. Even now, the printer was chattering away. Issuing a readout target of every major city in the free world. He can see that from his very far away position. Justin Halley could see two buttons on the control panel, one red and one white, and a digital timer. Standing by the weapon's side, leaning over the instrument panel, were two men. One of them, wearing an elaborate uniform complete with medals and decorations, was none other than Colonel Vermin Katafi, the world's leading terrorist murderer. Wait, so is he a terrorist and a murderer, or is he a murderer of terrorists? Because those are two very different things.
There's no comma, so it's not terrorist and a murderer. He's a terrorist murderer. He murders other terrorists, according to this.
The other man, hunched and broken, was Dr. Ivan Petovich. Solid Snake slipped further into the shadows to survey the weapon. Metal Gear was housed in an octagonal booth of shatterproof see-through Lexan glass. Each of the 8 sides was locked and guarded by an armed terrorist of matchless ferocity, strength, and cunning. Oh, ferocity, strength, and cunning. These were Katafi's picked elite guards, his most murderous men. From the shadows, Halley watched in horror as Katafi selected his primary target. Through the Lexan shield, he couldn't hear their voices, but the gloating look on Katafi's ugly face was hard to miss, and Halley could almost hear that vicious laughter. Then Katafi took a step away from the control panel, and Solid Snake could make out on the screen that the chosen target was Washington, D.C. No! The protest was yelled out in Justin Halley's own mind. Oh, but from his lips came no sound at all. It was his snakeman training that kept him silent. Katafi adjusted his coordinates and pressed the red button. The digital countdown in seconds began. The destruction of the free world had begun. Halley saw the countdown start. 60, 59, 58. Less than 60 seconds to detonation. In under a minute, Washington would be reduced to rubble. No, in under a minute, the nukes will be launched.
Yeah, and then they'd be intercepted immediately by the U.S. forces, because that's how that works.
Yeah, nuclear warheads aren't like a missile. You don't where it just, if it hits a target, it explodes. You have to actually, like, almost put a timer or a detonator on it just so it can pop.
Yeah. Anyway, and the other capitals would follow. Ottawa, London, Tokyo, Canberra, Paris, Wellington. Solid Snake thought faster than he'd ever thought in his life. It was now or never. This was what he'd been sent here to do. 8 guards. That was less than 10 seconds per guard. I thought he was going to say that was less than 10 guards. Like, wow.
8 guards. That's less than 10. I got this.
Someone passed first grade math. If Captain Halley attempted to use his grenade launcher or his rocket launcher or his mines, chances were he'd blow the entire basement sky high, and it would be too late to disarm Metal Gear. What would happen to the weapon's nuclear payload that was no doubt hidden somewhere, ready to launch? And he's just wasting time.
It's in the Metal Gear. That's the whole purpose of the metal...
An explosion could trigger that launch. Solid Snake dropped all his equipment. Perhaps his body armor would give him some protection. He glanced over and saw the display. 55. 54.
Oh, now he's 53. Dropping his equipment. Maybe like now the good time to not take it all with us.
What about the locks on the Lexan shield? 8 locks, 8 key cards. Thank goodness Halley hadn't left the other 7 key cards behind.
Boy, I'm glad I wasn't smart and did the thing I suggested to myself.
What he had to do now was defeat each guard in turn from 1 to 8 and put the right key card into each lock. When all 8 cards were inserted, Solid Snake was sure he'd be able to get to Metal Gear. It would be mortal hand-to-hand combat, like ancient Roman gladiators between Halley and each of the terrorist guards in turn. The only advantage on Solid Snake's side was that the guards were unable to leave their posts to gang up on him, because they had to defend their locks every second.
Whatever.
They could
so
absolutely
dumb.
Team up on him.
It's also they've got guns. Just fucking shoot him.
Yeah. One by one, Solid Snake attacked the terrorists in a struggle for supremacy. The first guard went down, then the second. More than once, it was only Halley's body armor that saved his life. From the outside, the young Marine heard an incredible racket going on. The indistinct sounds of men's voices yelling, muffled explosions, rapid gunfire. No doubt the entire terrorist army had been deployed to burst in here at any moment and kill him. Solid Snake was not afraid to die, but he was determined to take Katafi and Metal Gear with him.
But he's not determined to do it quickly.
No, of course not.
Each time he overcame a guard, Halley slammed one of the key cards into the slot at the side of the 8-sided shield. One more lock would disengage. The pressure was building. Halley could see 40, 39, 38. In 12 seconds, he took down all of those people. Only 38 seconds remaining.
Krav Maga.
Using all of his Snake Man skills, Solid Snake overthrew another guard. But even for the most courageous man in the Snake Man squad, 8 killers were too many to defeat in less than a minute. 3 were down, but 5 were still alive. Oh, okay. Well, still, that's like 4 seconds per guard. With only half a minute to go. Only 3 key cards were in their slots. Fewer than half the locks were open. Perhaps it was the pressure he was under. Perhaps it was the pressure combined with his head injury. But Solid Snake suddenly felt as though the battle was all over and he'd lost. Despair threatened to overcome him, and he felt his energy begin to ebb away. Halley felt trapped and powerless, as though a strong net had been thrown over his body and that he was being dragged off to his death, helpless to do anything about it. It was Justin Halley's worst nightmare, a recurring dream from which he'd wake in a cold sweat. Now it was coming true. He was failing in his mission. Meanwhile, the seconds kept ticking down to the destruction of the world. Suddenly, just behind him, Solid Snake heard the barking of gunfire. The terrorists must have broken through and the enemy now had him surrounded. Chapter 18, the final battle. All right. At the sound of guns firing behind him, Solid Snake whirled around, ready to die, and equally ready to take as many of the enemy with him as he could. But to his astonishment, he saw not the enemy he expected, but Jennifer's brother Eagle Man, Gray Fox, and other snake men he had rescued. Even Chuck. It was his old squad, weak and wounded, but coming to fight at Justin Halley's side. Metal Gear had been their mission too. Now Solid Snake was no longer alone. Now he had allies in the final battle. Only 2 of the snake men had found weapons. The others began attacking the remaining guards with sticks, pieces of brick, and stone. Anything they could get their hands on. Weakened though they were by their imprisonment and torture, their united strength caught the guards by surprise, and 2 more terrorists went down under the snake men's assault. Solid Snake raced over to insert the key cards into the other 2 slots. 5 guards down, 5 locks opened, 3 more to go. What's our timer is so slow. Like, it was at 38 seconds, and then on the next page it's at 24.
Yeah.
It's all wired to an old clock that's really
Look, guys, the battery's getting low, so it's having trouble ticking.
Someone has to keep coming and winding it.
It's like, we gotta, like, manually move it every now and then because the battery's so weak.
Shake it a little bit. Look, I blew all the budget on building Metal Gear. I had to cut it somewhere.
Where do you think I got all the money? Shortchanging us, sir. Exactly.
Solid Snake needed all the allies he could get. Pushing aside the body of a fallen guard, he shouted through the open lock straight into the Lexan shielded enclosure. Dr. Petovich, Elena's alive. She's safe. We're the United States Marines and we've rescued your daughter. Would the old man hear Halley's words? And if he did, would the words do any good? Dr. Petovich was already so enfeebled. What kind of help could he give? Inside the Lexan booth, Dr. Petovich appeared to come to life very suddenly. He stood up straight, and the years fell from his shoulders. Reaching out for Katafi's throat, he began struggling with the terrorist leader to get at the white disarm button. For a minute there, the combat between the 2 men was almost equal. But Colonel Katafi was a much younger and stronger man, and he was armed. Dr. Petovich had been subjected to the most vicious physical and mental torture, which had drained him of his strength. Yet he fought on, made stronger by the knowledge that his daughter was alive. With an effort, Katafi fought himself free of the old man's grip, drew his pistol from its holster, and brutally pistol-whipped the scientist. Dr. Petovich slumped to the ground unconscious, but not before proving to Solid Snake what he needed to know. It was the white button the Snake Man had to reach before it was too late.
The only other button.
The white button was the only thing that could stop the countdown on Metal Gear. Time had slowed down, but each second moved too fast. Oh, so time did slow down. That's so nice.
Bullet time, activate.
The display read 24, 23, 22. The battle continued. 7 of the 8 key cards had already opened 7 of the locks. Oh, good. Math shakes out. Woo! Thanks to the help given by the Snake Men, 7 of the enemy lay unconscious, but there was still 1 more guard to go and 1 more lock to open. Captain Halley ran towards the guard, uttering his tiger yell at the top of his lungs. Meow. So he uttered it at the top of his lungs? I think those are 2 different, like... Yeah, anyway.
Meow.
The force of his rush knocked the assault rifle out of the guard's hands. Instantly, the 2 men were locked in a life-or-death, bare-handed, one-on-one battle. The enemy held the advantage. All he needed to do was to keep Halley away from Metal Gear for a few seconds, and the terrorists would win. The free world would be destroyed. Oh, God. No, you cannot. Sorry. I'm just so tired. I was telling myself I can't sleep, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense. Now makes a lot more sense.
But we're close.
But we're so close. Where did I leave off? Oh, here we go. The task Solid Snake faced was far more difficult. In the same few seconds, he must overcome the guard, get the lock open, and then defeat the dictator Katafi in order to hit that white button.
Shoot him.
The enemy guard... What?
Just shoot him.
Just shoot him. The enemy guard was fresh and very strong. Justin Halley was almost played out, a man with a mission. For many, many hours, he'd been without rest. He'd braved and endured hazard after deadly hazard, fighting for his life every minute. It was a miracle he'd come this far. Did he have enough left to go the rest of the way? Now a weakened Captain Halley was struggling with the last guard, the strongest of them all. The other snake men lay wounded on the ground, too exhausted to help him. But they'd already done their job. Now it was up to Solid Snake alone. Nothing mattered but that white button. He could see the countdown continue. 18, 17, 16. I would like to point out that right there, the timer is at 16, and then there's like shooting that's coming, there's people talking, and then the display is 15, 14, 13. Like, they are all talking in a split second, or time really did slow down.
Yeah, they're all like talking over each other.
Now the enemy had Solid Snake by the throat, his powerful fingers closing, throttling, trying to squeeze the last breath out of him. Justin Halley couldn't free himself. He was blacking out. Desperately, he looked around for help. Jennifer's brother, Eagle Man, was the nearest of the snake men. He was lying on the ground, close to unconscious. "Bob, you have to help me," croaked Solid Snake, his voice squeezed to a whisper. "Take keycard 8 from me and put it in the slot. You've got to hurry. Never mind me, just get the card. We have only a few seconds left." Eagle Man raised his head weakly and nodded. Then, painfully, inch by inch, Bob O'Reilly dragged himself over and pulled the card from Solid Snake's fingers, while Halley still struggled with the terrorist. Eagle Man dropped keycard 8 into its lock. Now all 8 keycards were in place. Things began to happen all at once. As soon as the last keycard fell into place, the Lexan shield dissolved. Sorry, I laid down in my chair very far, and now my chair's just halfway across my room. The Lexan shield dissolved, disappearing into the ground. Metal Gear was now in the open, exposed, but the detonator timer was still ticking the seconds away. The digital display, thank you, showed 15, 14, 13. The destruction of Metal Gear's Lexan shield took the enemy guard by surprise. For one split second, his hands loosened around the throat of Solid Snake. In that instant, using all his strength and cunning, Halley broke the guard's chokehold. Now Halley summoned every ounce of strength he had left in his body. With his bare hands, he karate chopped the last terrorist guard and threw his limp form aside. Without thought for his own safety, Solid Snake hurled himself toward Metal Gear, his right hand reaching for the white button that would disarm the weapon. But his hand never made it. As the Marine captain raced into the booth with only seconds to spare before detonation, Colonel Katafi raised his pistol and fired. The bullet reached its target, slamming into Halley's shoulder above the body armor. Why not his head?
Yeah.
Blood began to pump from the wound. The impact sent Solid Snake's body spinning, but before he reached the ground, he twisted his body in the air like a cat. If he could only... It was his last possible chance of success, and it worked. Halley fell forward on the computer control panel, his hand outstretched. He saw the seconds move. 7, 6... With an angry roar, the dictator Katafi lifted his pistol to fire again, but before he could pull the trigger, Dr. Petovich, now conscious, reached up from the floor and yanked the terrorist off balance. The gun fell from Katafi's fingers. Halley could see he was running out of time. 4, 3, 2... Solid Snake's hand reached the white button and pushed. The timer clock stopped, the countdown reading 000001. Of course. With only 1 second to spare, the Metal Gear was out of commission. The world was safe. Yay! Woo. With a beast's snarl of psychotic rage, Colonel Vermin Katafi threw himself at Justin Halley. The two men grappled with each other, each trying to get the upper hand. Solid Snake was younger and stronger than the dictator, but he was wounded and losing blood. Katafi was master of every evil, dirty trick in the book. The hand-to-hand struggle went on for minutes, and all the while, the noise of a battle taking place nearby became louder and louder, the gunshots sounding nearer and nearer. Halley reckoned that his fight with Colonel Vermin Katafi would be his last. At any moment, the remainder of the terrorist army would be in here, and that would be the end of the Snake Men. But the mission was a success. Metal Gear was disarmed, and if Solid Snake could only hang in here a little longer, he might be able to take Katafi with him. That would really be a blow struck for the free world. I hope they all die. Just seems fitting. Suddenly the battle was upon them. A group of armed men in uniforms ran in, brandishing their weapons. At once, Colonel Katafi made a dive for the floor, going after his own pistol. Solid Snake saw the action and kicked out with the last of his remaining with the last remaining bit of strength in his wounded body. The kick caught Katafi on the side of his head and knocked him out. The dictator lay sprawled at the side of Metal Gear, the monster he'd created to dominate the world. Now, follow your Hitman training and use the snap neck button. Hallie, cried an astonished voice. We'll all be. Solid Snake, is that you? I'm hearing things, thought Justin Hallie. It's that bump on the head and the loss of blood. I must be blacking out. I could swear I heard... Solid Snake, it's me, Commander South. I'm here with the Foxhound Command troops and the rest of the Snakeman squad.
Ugh.
We've got Outer Heaven completely surrounded. My men are now rounding up the last... My men are rounding up the last of the terrorists now. I can't believe you're alive, but you're a wounded man. Oh, but you're wounded, man. You're bleeding bad. Medic, get over here on the double. Get this Marine some help. I'm all right, sir. Just a little woozy. Take care of my buddies first. Solid Snake pointed to the wounded Snakeman. Eagle Man, Gray Fox, Commander South couldn't hide his astonishment. Did you free them, Hallie? Yes, sir, and I found Ellen Petovich. She's safely hidden. That's Dr. Petovich, just getting up from the floor. He's on our side, sir. And is that thing Metal Gear? Asked Commander South. Yes, sir. Primed, loaded, and out of commission. I don't know what to say, Hallie, except well done. Now let's get you out of here and into sickbay. You can tell me all about it when you're feeling better. I feel fine, sir. I mean, he's shot, he's concussed, he's been beaten up, potentially got a little bit of, poison going on here and there. He's not fine.
No, he's fine, though.
Oh, okay. I feel fine, sir, and very glad to see you. But what about Katafi, sir?
Okay.
Katafi? Colonel Vernon Katafi? Was he here? He's out cold, sir. He's lying right... Solid Snake broke off, mystified. The spot where the dictator had been lying was empty. Katafi was not there. He's gone, sir. But he must have escaped. But how? Hallie took one step backward, wobbled, and nearly fell. He'd lost a lot of blood and was getting weaker by the minute. Easy now, Solid Snake. Commander South put his arm around Justin Hallie's shoulders to steady him.
The one that has a bullet in it.
Yeah. That evil maniac must have gotten away in the excitement. He knows every inch of this wretched place. There must be 1,000 holes for him to crawl into. Don't worry, one of these days we'll get him. Meanwhile, the chopper is topside, and doctors are waiting. Hallie wouldn't move until he saw the last of his squad buddies loaded onto gurneys. Then slowly he followed Commander South out of the basement arsenal. Why doesn't he get a gurney? He's injured.
Yeah.
His job was done. Solid Snake's mission had been completed, and successfully. Metal Gear was now harmless. It's not harmless.
No, it's still very much harmful.
Yeah, and in the possession of the forces of democracy. Still not good. The Snakemen prisoners were on their way to the best medical attention in the world. Ellen and Dr. Petovich were safe. The world was safe. Oh, I think so. Even so, Hallie knew that something was missing. Yeah, it's Dr. Katafi. His victory was incomplete, and he had the bitter taste of ashes in his mouth. In the doorway, Hallie turned. He spoke very softly. Wait for me, Katafi, he whispered. I'll be back, so wait for me. You belong to me, and soon I'll be coming back to collect. Next time, you won't get away. That sounds like he just strung together a bunch of one-liners.
Yeah, he did.
Some of them
from a
softly.
romance novel. Wait for me.
You belong to me.
He
spoke very softly, but somehow Solid Snake knew in his heart that hidden away somewhere, Colonel Katafi heard his words. Don't know how he heard them, but you know what? I believe him. Dear reader, I hope you liked reading Metal Gear. Here's a list of other books that I thought you might like. Across 5 Aprils by Irene Hunt. All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque. Call It Courage by Armstrong Sperry. The Great Escape by Paul Brickhill. The Survivor by Rob White. Young Man in Vietnam by Charles Coe.
These don't seem like anything that's appropriate for this reader.
No. You can find these books at your local library or bookstore. Ask your teacher or librarian for other books you might enjoy.
So, you go from this scholastic book. Well, I suggested you use All Quiet on the Western Front. That's a World War I kind of tricky read for that. Same with the Great Escape,
Yeah, I mean, actually, what's interesting is that there's a lot of heavy inspiration to the Metal Gear series from The Great Escape.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all post this game. So... Wow.
Well, that was fun.
That's definitely an F word for it. Oh, boy.
That was interesting.
Was
a very interesting take on Metal Gear in other media. I highly recommend the games over this book.
But at some point, I will be doing a review of this book after I read it one more time and then go through the game one more time.
Yeah, this. Oh,
good luck
for me.
Yeah.
Pray for me.
Believe me, every night. Until it's done, my thoughts will be with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, boy.
All right, well, that was fun.
Yeah,
All right.
if only just.
If only.